And joining us now is Nicholas Grossman. He is a political science international relations professor at the University of Illinois. Professor Grossman, thank you so much for being here. What is your current assessment of the situation right now? Is it a matter of when, not if, Russia will invade?
It looks pretty dire. I wouldn't say that this all either being ultimately a bluff to try to get concessions or something that can lead to a diplomatic solution is impossible. Until that window is closed, it is still open at least a little. But everything has been moving in the direction of at least some sort of invasion. Perhaps not a full attack on the capital, but at least military activity in the east, in the Donbas region, in the part where separatists are already fighting.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson today saying that Russia is preparing to launch the biggest war in Europe since 1945, and that intelligence suggests Russia will, quote, encircle Kiev. What, in your view, would a war look like? Would it just be an occupation of the capital initially? What would happen next?
It could go in many different directions, and the way that Russia has been playing it this whole time has been to keep multiple options open. It's possible that they go for an assault on the capital and try to take it over, to remove the government. It's also possible that that the Russian forces in Belarus and close to the Ukrainian capital stay there and harass the capital, maybe hit it with some airstrikes, put pressure on the government, try to freeze Ukrainian forces there without having to go to an all-out war. And it's possible that even they string along this uneasiness for a while, where Ukraine is being menaced, where a lot of the world is paying attention to Russia, where you have various world leaders that are going to meet with Putin and listening to what he says. So the current status quo, even though Russia appears to be preparing to attack imminently, it is also possible that they gain some advantage from this and ramp things up slowly or string this along as opposed to a all-out assault. And that's something that we will just have to wait and see. We can't know in advance.
And the United States, of course, is the key player in the West for Putin. Is there any concession short of banning Ukraine from NATO that would satisfy him?
Probably not. And I don't even think that banning Ukraine from NATO would satisfy Putin. That Russia's demands have included not just a promise that Ukraine would not join NATO, that basically the U.S. acknowledges that Ukraine is under Russia's influence and cannot be allowed to make its own alliance decisions. But also Russia has demanded that the United States remove forces from Eastern Europe. That includes members of NATO, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Romania, and this is a non-starter. So there is very little confidence in the United States or the West more broadly that making a concession such as, okay, fine, Ukraine's not allowed to join NATO, would lead Russia to say, all right, good, we're satisfied. That what it seems like Russia wants primarily is to dominate Ukraine, at minimum to have Ukraine be more friendly to Russia than friendly to Europe, and it had been leading in the other direction recently.
And is the end game a kind of a domino effect with former Soviet republics, another Red Scare?
Maybe, but I don't think it'll go that far. If I had to guess now, I would think mostly that what Russia has been trying to do with its various conflicts, not just this one, but previous attacks on Ukraine, attacks on Georgia in 2008, is work within at least somewhat warped version of the international rules. So meaning this is why they're putting in a lot of effort to try to create a pretext for conflict, for claiming that there has been a genocide ongoing, and there's no evidence for this, but when they claim it and they've started to evacuate some people from Eastern Ukraine and say that they're welcome in Russia, and they're creating what looks like the ability to at least claim that it's a peacekeeping operation. And even if this isn't the most plausible thing to various discerning analysts, it's the sort of thing that muddies the waters, that confuses people, that gives people who want to avoid conflict an excuse for it. And that would allow Russia greater flexibility. So I wouldn't think that they would try to invade any further in Eastern Europe. It's possible that they don't even invade all the way in Ukraine, but they will almost certainly continue to try to pressure Eastern Europe and try to undermine NATO and the EU.
All right. Professor Grossman, thank you as always. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.